Ladies and gentlemen, Oscar Piastri narrowly beat Lando Norris to secure pole position in the 2025 Dutch Grand Prix. And the big question is, how did he do that? Because Lando was clearly faster than him in all of the practice sessions and he looked like he had more performance in the bag. So, how did Oscar Piastri find extra lap time as the sessions went by and made it count when it mattered the most, which is Q3? So, let's look at their track dominance data about who is faster where in the track. In this is FP1, FP2, FP3, and Q3, the final run in qualifying, in order to find out what Oscar did both mentally and a little bit on the track in order to find that extra advantage. Because I don't primarily think that there's a lot of things going on the track. I mean, obviously, it did went down on the track, but it's a psychological thing about how Oscar Piastri, the championship leader in 2025 so far, has approached it. So in the FP1 data that you are seeing right now, I want you to pay your attention to a few sections of the track. So first, we will look at the turn 13 and 14, this area, which is leading to the start-finish straight. Then turn 11 and 12 around this chicane. And then turn 7, 8, and 9, like this area. So these are the areas in which Norris is typically faster than Oscar Piastri, and this is where Norris gains significant amount of time over Oscar Piastri. As you can see around the chicane, Norris is faster by almost 3/10. Here in this area, it's a lot less than that, not even a tenth. And in this area also, Norris is a tenth up, which is significant considering how close Oscar and Norris have been. The other areas, especially the turn 1, Norris has a little bit of advantage. Turn 3, Oscar Piastri has the advantage because, it's a dynamic circuit and he has found his own rhythm here. But primarily, turn 11 and 12, 13 and 14, and 7, 8, 9, these areas. These three areas, Norris excels around Zandvoort. And if you look at the data in FP2, it's kind of similar because in this section of the track, Norris is still faster more than 1/10, 1.5 tenths over here. Now, this is the area around the chicane where Oscar Piastri regained the time. He's going to lose it again later on. This is momentary improvement. And then after that, the same area, the last couple of corners that leads into the start-finish straight, Norris retains his advantage. In FP3, Oscar Piastri tried some experimentation, right? And it didn't work because here he lost a little bit of extra time. Because if you look at the time difference, Piastri did a 109.2 and Norris did a 189. And again, the same parts of the track. The last couple of corners leading to the start-finish straight. A little bit of the turn 1. I forgot to mention this here. Here also in turn 1, Norris has the advantage. Oscar Piastri in FP2 regained a lot of the ground that Norris made, but broadly he is still slow in these two areas. In FP3, Oscar Piastri tried to make the gains in those areas of the track where Norris typically had the advantage, but it didn't quite work out. He is still slow in the turn 1 area. Obviously, in the chicane area, he carried that advantage that he found in FP2. And he's going to lose it in Q3. Last couple of corners, still slower than Norris. Here, Norris is, again, faster. Similarly, like the delta that Norris pulls out in this last couple of corners has not increased by much, but it's still significant considering how close Piastri and Norris have been this entire season. And obviously, turn 79, this area, the gap has been less, but at the same time, this is a part of the track where you have to give props to Norris. So what Oscar Piastri learned from the 3 qualifying sessions is that there are some areas of the track in which Norris simply is going to be faster. And rather than focusing on that, trying to learn and extract maximum amount of pace from those areas so that he can be faster than Norris. Instead of doing that, he focused on the areas that he is good at. So let's go ahead and look at the areas of the track where Oscar Piastri is good at, which is turn 3, the exit out of the chicane, the turns. I mean, I forgot which number of corner it is, probably like 5 and 6, something like that, this area. And he has that advantage. In turn 3, Oscar Piastri took a different line than Lando Norris because that's where he found a little bit of extra performance. So this area, and these are the areas in which Oscar, I mean, he fucked up in FP3, as I mentioned earlier. He was trying some experimentations. He was trying to beat Lando Norris in his own game. Basically, he was trying to gain some speed in this section of the track, turn 7, and the last couple of corners that leads to the start-finish straight. And in a bid of doing that, he actually lost the advantage that he had in the areas of the track that he is naturally good at. It's kind of sad to see, but he still retained his advantage around turn 3. The thing about Zandvoort, what it makes this track so interesting, is that it's a driver's circuit. And the thing about a driver's circuit is that it gives the freedom to the driver to find their racing line in certain corners. It gives some room for creativity. So in turn 3, which is one of those corners in which you can either take a wider line, bigger radius, in which you have to travel more distance but you can carry more speed, or you can choose a narrow line where you have to travel less distance but you will be slower. And Oscar Piastri seems to have found out the perfect line for him and his car to carry the maximum amount of speed and cover the optimum amount of distance to have the advantage over his teammates. So there are some sections of the track in which Oscar Piastri is strong. And he, after the first 3 practice sessions, just focused on that. Rather than obsessing over where Lando is good and trying to beat him in his own game, which is possible theoretically, but when you are in a Formula 1 weekend and a tight championship battle, it's not going to happen. Like these creases to iron out, it takes time. You need to spend some time in simulator. You need to do hours and hours of laps around the circuit. You don't have that much amount of time in a packed calendar like this. So what he did was just focus on his strength. There are certainly multiple areas of the track in which Oscar Piastri is strong. So instead of focusing on the areas of the track like the last couple of corners and turn 7, 8, and these areas and turn 1, where Norris is naturally good, he just focused on his strengths and focused on the areas of the track in which he can naturally pull out some extra lap time and gain the lead over Lando Norris. And he did exactly that in the Q3 run. And again, you can see the areas of the track in which Norris has the advantage. Turn 1, the chicane. Obviously in FP2 and FP3, that advantage of Norris is not there, but in FP1, Norris is faster in this area. And in Q3, yes, Norris retains his advantage. The gap is significantly low. The last couple of corners, like this area, obviously not both of the corners, but one of the corners leading to the start-finish straight, Norris has the advantage. Turn 7 and 8, like this area of the track, he has the advantage. But Oscar Piastri gained significantly in the areas of the track that he is strong at, which is turn 3, this area. Then around this area, I think turn 5 and 6. I'm forgetting the number, like the end of the corner, so pardon me for that. And here, I think I saw a picture where he got a bit of a toe, not significant one, from Liam Lawson. I don't know how much that has helped him, but it is clear that Lando Norris is faster in the second half of the straight. So couldn't be that much. The point that I'm trying to make by looking at all of this data is that in Formula 1, if you want to be a world champion, you have to focus on your strengths rather than your own weakness, because the time you need to fix your weaknesses in order to turn them into your strength, you don't usually have it. And it's an important life lesson too, right? So there are certain things that you're good at and you need to focus on them in order to progress through life rather than obsessing over the thing that you're shit at. Obviously, it depends on how much time you have to improve on the things that you're shit at. I'm not saying that Oscar Piastri is going to let this shit slide. Next year, he's going to be even better. This is his third year in Formula One, and he is such a mature person, and he is smoking Lando Norris, last year's winner. And Norris was dominant last year around Zandvoort. It's not a track that he's shit at. Even though I will give the general advantage to Oscar Piastri because it's a driver's circuit and Oscar excels in these type of tracks. For example, which one? Bahrain is one, Imola is one, then like what else? Belgium, another one is Zandvoort, the very example. So these are the driver circuits in which Oscar Piastri is naturally good at. I'm not going to go ahead and say that it's like black and white, but usually, in a general sense, Oscar Piastri had the advantage, but Lando is no slouch around Zandvoort. We have seen this from last year. He bottled the start, but then again, he regained it. Now, the interesting thing is, if you look at the circuit, it's a very short run into turn one. So if the thing is, Oscar Piastri is not going to fuck up the start. He usually doesn't do that. But if Lando Norris has a better start than Oscar Piastri and the chances of that are low, then there is a possibility that he can get the lead into turn one. The key ingredient here is Max Verstappen as usual. I have said this in a different video that Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, and George Russell, these are the three ingredients which will shape how the championship battle pans out, because they are going to get in the way of these two guys, and these two guys will lose time to one another while fighting the other three. You know what I mean? When Piastri and Norris are separately fighting Max Verstappen, George Russell, and Charles Leclerc, they will lose time relative to each other. And that's why Max Verstappen in the Dutch Grand Prix 2025 is a wild card. And if Max gets in between these two, it's basically the race over for the other guy. Like, for example, let's say Oscar Piastri has a clean getaway. The chances of that happening is high. And if Norris bottles the start and Max Verstappen gets in between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, then Norris's race is basically over. He's going to lose a couple of laps behind Max Verstappen. There is no DRS initially, and Max will not be afraid to use up the grip in his tires to retain the position. That's what's going to happen, and this is going to be more than enough for Oscar Piastri to just run away. Now, what Oscar cannot do is fuck up the start and let Lando take the lead. Because if Lando takes the lead, you basically can't overtake him in the same car. We have seen this in Austria. The first 20 laps, Oscar Piastri did everything he could to put the pressure on Lando, and nothing worked out. And if you are Lando Norris, as the race progresses and you are in the lead, the chances of you losing that lead and the victory as a result of that is getting closer to zero. As the race progresses, Lando Norris becomes impossible to overtake. I have seen this. Yes, he has some problems. There are some areas in his racecraft that he needs to work on, but you have to give credit to Lando where he deserves it, and he fucking deserves it. In the second half of the race, after the last round of pit stops have been completed, Lando Norris finds a rhythm and he just sticks to that. Nothing can phase him, and he just becomes impossible to overtake. So if Oscar Piastri loses the lead to Lando Norris initially, he ain't overtaking him back. We have seen this in Austria. I'm repeating Austria because Austria is also a driver's circuit. Either way. So yeah, Oscar Piastri needs to nail the start, and then only he can win. But then again, Max Verstappen, the wild card, he can get in and fuck things up. So great job by Oscar Piastri on focusing on his strengths in order to get the pole position. I hope that he wins this Grand Prix and extends his championship lead further into the future. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.